Hello, parents and guardians of CISD fifth graders. My name is Dina Dinas. I'm the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning in the Coppell Independent School District, and I would request a few minutes of your time so that I can speak to you about how the district has revised our gifted and talented assessment process for the 2020-2021 school year. I know that there is a lot that rides on this process as we talk about our elementary learners transitioning to the middle schools. And so I would ask for about 10 minutes of your time so I can explain how we're going to handle that this year. First, I want to assure you that the bedrock of our assessment plan and the services we provide in our district are based in the Texas State Plan for the Education of Gifted and Talented Students. But this year, more than ever, equity is a concern because, one, in the new guidelines published by the Texas Education Agency, we cannot require in-person testing for our learners. And obviously, we have learners in two separate environments, remote and face-to-face. Usually we use the information, whether a learner is identified gifted and talented or not, from their fifth grade assessment to help make choices about middle school course selection. And that continues to be our priority. And I want to share with you how we intend to accomplish that this year. As we have done in the past, we will continue to utilize at least 3 measures for the purposes of identifying new learners. The district has purchased a number of digital tools for the purpose of assessment, and those are being used with our remote and face-to-face learners. Those are quantitative measures, and we are going to use those tools as part of our assessment process during the school year. The state plan also requires us to have qualitative measures, and there are a variety of standardized teacher rating scales that we're going to utilize to collect qualitative data for identification. Classroom educators will complete those scales by mid-January, and if necessary, our gifted and talented intervention specialists may conduct interviews. As we have always done, all those gathered assessment data points, both qualitative and quantitative, will be reviewed by the Campus Gifted and Talented Committee. Those are educators, administrators, and counselors who have completed the 30 hours of required gifted and talented training from the state and have maintained that 30-hour certification with a 6-hour update every year based on the data that we collect and what the GTC reviews. They will make the determination as to whether a learner needs gifted and talented services. That decision is never made by a sole person. Sometimes when we take data to the GTC, they come back and say that additional data points need to be gathered. If that happens, for your learner, we will notify you on an individual basis. Eligibility notifications in general will occur by March 1st, 2021, and services will begin for identified learners as soon as we have a signed permission to serve form. One of the things that I celebrate a great deal about the services we provide is that you do not have to be identified gifted and talented in order to be a recipient of the service. Brilliance is sprinkled liberally across all learner groups, and learners have strengths in all content areas. Each of them are unique, and that should be celebrated and supported. And so our model is really based on the unique need of each learner, and it's very fluid. Whether a learner is identified or not, if they demonstrate mastery of the current grade level content, then we will provide a form of academic extension for them that can be built into the current classroom instruction. Our GTI specialists have created extensions, particularly in mathematics and language arts, for learners that are in Schoology right now that can be leveraged whether the learner is remote or attending face-to-face. For classroom differentiation, the educator and the GT specialist could be co-facilitating some learning, and or there could be push in where the GT specialist is in the classroom working with learners or Zooming with them as appropriate, or pulling out learners or Zooming with them as appropriate in order to provide that extension. Our model has not changed, although certainly the way we are doing it has changed. For those of you that have currently identified GT learners, we utilize that information, as I've said before, to help learners transition to middle school. And one of our local guidelines is that learners may only enroll in the GT courses that align with their area of eligibility. So an example of that would be if, as a learner, I was identified as gifted in mathematics and science, then I would be eligible for the GT and mathematics science courses only at the middle school level. I would not be eligible for language arts and social studies courses. If I am identified general intellectual ability, and very few learners are as they begin to mature, particularly as we get past that third grade time where they have really stepped into abstract thinking and are able to really show us kind of where their talents are. We may have early on identified them as general intellectual ability, but after third grade, we do start to notice whether a learner has a particular area of strength and or passion. Some fifth grade learners are currently identified general intellectual ability that may not be at the end of our assessment process for this year. That is our attempt to best serve the learners based on the information we have. So please note that as we move into the spring and course selection begins for our middle schools. For our currently identified GT learners, we will be using a more sophisticated teacher rating scale. Since those learners are already GT, this is really about helping get to that area of passion. Again, we will have those quantitative data points that I already referred to that learners are participating in anyway, but the sophisticated rating scale will really help us determine where the specific area of identification for learners are based on the information we have. Identification can be single subject or multiple subjects, or it could include all subjects. So as an example, I could be identified in only science, or I could be identified in science and mathematics, or language arts and social studies, or all four core content areas. In the future, hopefully post-COVID, we will return to our normal practices of assessing learners, but I do want to make you aware, parents, that as learners matriculate into the secondary portion of their academic careers, that assessment then becomes part of a referral for learners. It's not a universal screening. For example, if you have been in COPEL with your learners since kindergarten, we screen them in kindergarten, in first grade, in third grade, and in fifth, because we are actively looking for that brilliance and how to support our learners in that way. But moving into the secondary, it is up to you as parents to refer your learners. Learners can be referred once a year, and our referral process will be ongoing if an educator determines that there is a need for some additional assessment. Every year we update our practices and they are communicated to you as required by the state plan. That's a lot of information, and I appreciate you sticking with me. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me at ddinus@copelisd.com. Thank you.